again,
Yes.
going back to like me being this big feeler, I really wanted to feel more. The biggest mission that I have more recently is helping people realize that dance is this beautiful healing modality that allows us to identify the truth of what we're feeling.
Once you actually say, this is why I work out, or why you talk so much during your classes, or why I have a podcast, because it's healing you and then you're healing people who didn't feel like they had a voice either.
I knew that this was something that would transform my life and my mental health because I found so much power in dancing just to let go. That was the first time I had done that.
The big silence, empowering personal experiences, inspiring compassion, and healing lives. We are no longer silent. We are here.
The Big Silence. The Big
All
Silence.
right. Welcome to the Big Silence podcast, Melody Afkami.
Hello. So excited to be here with you.
I am too, because you know what I love about you? And we met through mutual friends who just connected us. You're an Austin native, but when I find you talking on like news shows or this or that, you're always like, fitness should be fun, which, if you know, Tone It Up, that's been our motto from the very beginning. And I love that about you. And I want to talk about, so your main focus is dance. And
Yes.
we're going to go deep into that, into why. But tell me about your childhood and how you got into dance.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. And Tone It Up has always been such a big inspiration. The community that y'all have built, so incredible. Um, yeah, my childhood, I was in dance, and it was obviously a little bit more on the competitive and technical. You're in dance class, and you get kind of graded and judged on how well you're pointing your toes,
Mhm.
and but that was where I did really find my love and joy in dance, but it wasn't necessarily in dance class
Mhm.
or at the competitions. It was me alone in my room,
Mhm.
just dancing by myself and letting everything go.
I love that because I have memories as a kid, and I would get home from school and nobody was home. And I would go in my living room and put on a full performance. And I was not a trained dancer of any sorts, but I would just be like interpretive dancing and playing Debbie Gibson or Tiffany and have this choreography. And it just makes you feel good. And I look back then as growing up in the household that I did, like maybe that was, as you say, sometimes dancing through darkness.
Absolutely,
Mm.
absolutely. I just got chills when you said that because I felt that same thing too. Like I look back to my childhood and I
Mhm.
think what was the healing modality that kept me going and gave me whatever I was feeling, it gave me something.
Mhm.
I would find myself if I was sad, yeah, I still danced,
Mhm.
and I think we think of dance as this thing that you only do when you have the energy to do it, or you only do it when you're celebrating,
Mhm.
or you only do it when you're drinking and going out. And it's like, for me, the biggest mission that I have more recently is helping people realize that dance is this beautiful healing modality that allows us to identify the truth of what we're feeling, which is sounds simple when I say it like that,
Mhm.
but that's the hardest thing for us to do as human beings is identify exactly how we feel.
So, was there anything in your youth that you realized that maybe caused some trauma that made you move your body?
So I think because I did the dance classes and then I danced on my own, could tell the difference between what it was like to dance alone
Mhm.
in my room. There was a sense of liberation.
Mhm.
And I think for me, I think it was like in my adolescence where I just suddenly felt a little bit of depression going into middle school and high school. I found myself just, I had friends, but I just started to feel this darkness come in
Mhm.
with me. And I don't know if there was a single traumatic event or one thing, but I think culturally speaking, now that I'm older and I look at my childhood and my parents are both from Iran, and
Mhm.
I think for me, there's something ancestral there
Mhm.
where I would be I would be arrested for doing what I do here
Yeah.
in America. And so I think from a young age, there was some sort of like voice within me that was wanting to liberate myself and in doing so liberate others.
I love that. And also, side note, you said that your parents are from Iran. So you
Yeah.
pointed out the dream catcher, and I was
Yeah.
telling you about the artist.
Yeah.
He's from Iran.
He's
He's
oh my
very
god, he's Persian?
yes.
Wow.
So I'll give you more deets on him and
Yeah.
like the history of this house and his art.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah. So when were you growing up that you felt like there's this kind of sadness? Like what, like the 2000s, the 90s?
Yes, I mean, let's see, I'm like, "Oh." Yeah, it was the early 2000s, late '90s and early 2000s,
Okay.
and it's one of those things where I have always been such a deep feeler. So
Hmm.
I believe it's the biggest blessing, and it can be a little bit of a cursing sometimes, I'm never the most just neutral, I was raised in a household where it was like the highs are high and the lows were low,
Hmm.
and I believe that that was something that I struggled with. My highs were really high. I was able to really give people energy and I was always the one smiling at school. But then my lows when I was alone were really just very low. And I think dance was something that kind of helped me ride the wave of that without so much judging myself, so much judgment upon myself, so much criticizing myself. Like, why can't you just be quote unquote normal and not feel all these feelings?
But don't you feel like growing up and, uh, that you also had your peers that were probably feeling the same way? Because that's what I think
Yes,
about. Because I think about, like, when I grew up, my peers were kind of rebelling the same way I was, but we never talked about our feelings.
absolutely.
And I do think in today's society, young people are talking about feelings more because of the work that we do in the space of opening up that conversation and being like, "It's okay to not feel okay." So not that any of the statistics are improving right now, but we're trying. At what point did you realize that you were moving your body for your mental health? And did you ever talk to your parents? Like, what was that process?
I don't know that I actually made the connection of, wow, this is helping my mental health until I brought dance back into my adulthood because I stopped for so long.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
I stopped dancing competitively in high school and it was completely out of my life. And it was just like this old lover I was like looking back at, like, I miss dance so much. And then Um, being at my corporate job, I was thinking, okay, well, how do I go about this? I miss dance, but I don't know if I really even have aspirations to be a professional dancer. Like, what does this look like?
Mhm,
And eventually all the dots connected and it led me to dance fitness. That was probably in that first or second class that I taught. I knew instantly. I knew that this was something that would transform my life and my mental health because I found so much power in dancing just to let go. That was the first time I had done that.
so I love these conversations where someone's like, "Oh, I was in corporate and then I started my own thing." So
Yeah.
what is the mental state of someone like you saying,
Yeah.
"You know what? I'm leaving this corporate job and I'm gonna dance."
Right? With
Yeah,
immigrant parents who are
yeah.
like, "What?
So, yeah, they're like, "What are you
Oh,
doing?" "No,
what?"
you're not."
Yes, exactly. So that was when I knew the mental health connection was there because of what it did for all of my insides, and
Mhm,
nothing was different on the outside world other than I was bringing dance back in this capacity, and I was getting to teach people how to do the same thing,
mhm.
and I was deeply unhappy in my corporate job, and it's not to say that I think corporate jobs are bad for everyone because I absolutely don't think that, but for me, there was something in my soul that was screaming, you're meant to do something else. Again,
Yes.
going back to, like, me being this big feeler, I wanted to feel more in my everyday life and my job, and so once I started teaching, I found that I had a message to share, which
Mhm.
is, "Hey, you deserve to celebrate your darkness. You deserve to celebrate the light and the darkness that you're feeling." And I kind of feel like, I mean, I'm sure you feel the same way when Tone It Up started, but I feel like when I started in the fitness boutique era, like, nobody really was talking about
Mm,
anxiety and
mhm.
depression.
No.
Nobody was really talking about that connection. And so it was important for me to build my own dance fitness format where I could come into class and be like, "Hey, is anybody else having an absolute shit day?
Yeah.
where we're all like normally going to classes and just smiling. It felt really, again, I go back to the word liberated. It felt liberating for everybody in the room to be like, yeah, I've had a bad day too. Okay, cool. Let's dance about it.
So what year was that?
So I started teaching Zumba 2014
Okay.
and my
So 10 years.
classes were growing.
Yeah.
But the instructor, the studio owner was telling me, you talk too much. Zumba, you don't talk in Zumba and you do too much hip hop. And I thought, okay, I'll work on that. And I couldn't work on that because
You had something to
I had
say.
something to say that was almost, I mean, my friend Rachel and I, we joke about it that it's like, it does feel like a source is coming through me saying these things that are really important. And when I say it out loud, it feels simple, but when you combine it with the physicality of dance, things like you are enough, you always will be enough, you always have been enough, and then you dance. I mean, the activation that happens with people, I mean, we've just seen it, people start crying and then after they're like, I don't even know why I'm still crying. And it's like, it's okay, let it go. It's your
Yeah.
body is releasing.
I love what you said, well, in the days of boutique fitness.
Yeah.
When we started, you're 10 years ago, I'm
Yeah.
15 years ago, and, no one was talking about, like, why do we actually work out? Like, I feel and I'm also in that place where it was very aesthetic.
Yes.
It was very aesthetic, and I didn't as the messaging versus and I tell my story now because I feel like I can have a break the silence and have a bigger voice, but it was always in my early 20s when I was coming out of my own situational depression from, my schizophrenic mother and my youth, and it's like, "When was I happy? When was I happy?" "Oh, I was running. I ran a half marathon." And so I went to yoga, I started meditating, but, like, that's actually the story of why I got back into fitness was because
Right.
that was when I was my happiest in my youth. But and I would say back then, a decade plus ago, we didn't talk about that. Why do we really work out? And I, you know, literally would talk to Katrina and be like, no one can know my story. No one needs to know why this, my family history, why I actually work out. So then, and I'm sure you feel the same. Once you actually say, this is why I work out, it's like the and then this is why I talk so much about it or why you talk so much during your classes or why I have a podcast because it's healing you and then you're healing people who didn't feel like they had a voice either.
Absolutely. You gave yourself permission to speak your truth, which just by doing that, it inspires other people to speak their truth, and not carry that shame. And that was the biggest message I think I had from the beginning of my classes is, I think the dancing's fun. I do love dancing. I think I'm a great dance instructor. However, I know why the people were coming back and bringing their friends. And because they would bring people and their friends and say, "Oh, I want to bring my friend. She's going through this.
Mhm.
she's really struggling with depression or she's really in her head right now or she's struggling in here." And that made me so happy because I do want to talk to those people. And you're so right. Once we speak to it, not only does it give other people permission to kind of like unclench their jaw and take that deep breath in, but it also gives us this mission of, you know, oh, this darkness that has been in my life that I thought people don't wanna know about and I didn't wanna burden it other people with,
Mhm.
it's actually so important. This is part of my path, and now, it doesn't have as much power over me.
Exactly. And that's beautiful. And okay, so you go from Zumba,
Yep.
you don't shut your mouth. You're just like, whatever, I'm gonna do it my way. I
I struggle
totally
with that, yeah.
yeah. So then you go from Zumba, you're here in
Yeah.
Austin, and then somehow you get to concert venues and selling out hundreds of people. Like, how did that happen?
It's so funny because I always think about like, I do air quotation, business because if I had known that this was going to turn into my business, I would have probably planned. I would have
Yeah.
had a plan, right? But it was like my emphatic joy led the way, and it was just like, whoa, everything just faded away, and this was just this one thing in front of me, and it became just so natural to do this. It was completely word of mouth marketing, like I did
Mhm.
use social media to help a lot. And it was more just this thing of like, "Hey, you should come dance with us." And one class grew too big for the studio, and at the same time, I also was volunteering at a nonprofit, and
Mhm.
I realized, some of the meaning that I had been searching for at my corporate job. We all do this thing where we're like, "Well, I want more meaning. I wanna," but it's like, "Well, what are you giving?"
Mhm.
What really are you giving? And do you have the capacity to give more? And so when I started volunteering and teaching Zumba, I thought, "Ooh, how can I get people to come dance who are terrified of dancing? Maybe if I
Mhm.
tell them it's for a good cause."
Mm,
So
mhm.
that was kind of the inception of Melody DanceFit, the philanthropy aspect of it and just the big community aspect. And then I wanted to take it to another step of just like, let's get out of the fluorescent lights. Let's get out of gyms and studios. And what better time to, take it into these concert venues that aren't really occupied on a Monday night or a Saturday at 12.
Well, I'm just gonna say, you don't need a business plan because even with Tone It Up, everyone would ask for years, and we'd be talking to bankers or interviewed by private equity or anything like that, and they're like, "What's your business plan?" And we would just be like we'd point to our heads. And still to this day, I've
It's
never
here.
written one.
Yeah.
So
I couldn't I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think when you are really building something that people need.
it was never a business. Like, it was
Right.
not meant to be. It was following your passion. Like, "This makes me feel good. Moving my body makes me feel good." It's not like we sat down and we're like, "Before we launch our first YouTube video, let's write a business plan."
And I would argue that that would have gotten y'all 2 in your heads,
Yeah,
and it would have been so robotic and not
yeah,
based off of, passion and your feelings.
yeah. Alright, so you're in these venues now, and have you done an event outside of Austin?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
I taught at MIT, in Boston. I've gone
Nice.
to a different NYU. I did a little bit of, like, a college tour, and I've worked with some companies like Daybreaker. I've
Oh,
traveled
yeah.
with them and done my dance class with them, and, I do wanna get out of Austin more and tour,
Yeah.
different places, to spread this message even more, but yeah.
Daybreaker, um, Mickey and her sister
Yes,
yes,
yeah.
they live here now.
Yeah, they do?
Yes.
Wow, I knew that they were here for South by, but I didn't know that they live here
Well,
now.
Mickey does. She actually has been in that chair.
Oh,
So,
nice.
yeah.
Yeah, they're awesome.
I've never been to Daybreaker, but I think I'd be down for it.
Yeah, I think you'd like it.
Okay, so you're moving through and Melody Dance Fit is growing. Have you ever been clinically diagnosed with a depression or anything like that? Or
I have been clinically diagnosed with ADHD,
okay, how does that feel?
which I've learned
Is it
kind of falls into, bouts of depression,
mhm.
bouts of
Yeah.
anxiety. I would say I struggle more with bouts of anxiety depression rather than anxiety. So yeah, I've been diagnosed with that, which made a lot of sense.
You know what? I have heard that ADHD is a superpower.
I feel like it is too. I
Yeah.
really do.
I think I always believe that any diagnosis, mental health diagnosis is not an end all. It's like, "Oh, okay, that's the answer. Like, that's my
It's
superpower."
insight.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's insight, it's information, and it is your superpower.
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't be who you are if that wasn't a part of your struggle. You wouldn't have the magic that you have.
Yeah. And even anxiety. So that's something that, I don't have it as much right now, in the past year, but I did. But it's always a message that your mind and body is telling you
Mhm.
something is not right.
I agree.
And becoming present and actually listening is something that's so important. Anyone listening, like, what is the message that your body and your mind is telling you that is not right in your life? And I've had to learn how to do that. And then now, all the tools of how to deal so, like, with you, if you feel a depressive state
Mhm,
or possibly some anxiety,
mhm.
what do you do? What are your tools?
So, this is interesting because the biggest tool that I speak about is obviously leaning into dance
Yeah.
and, again, taking it out of that fitness realm of going to a class and dancing with a bunch of people and making it more of a micro way to get into your own body and
Mhm.
nobody's around and it's just you, music, and the space that you have, I tend to lean on, okay, where is my mood?
Mhm.
Am I low? Am I feeling low? Instead of trying to do something to stop me from feeling those feelings, I actually lean on music
Mhm.
to get me to feel it a little bit more so that I can get more information there. And that's when I try to get into my body through dance in some way. And
Mhm.
dance doesn't always look the same. I mean, I just was talking about this. It doesn't always I don't mean pirouettes across your living room and,
Mhm.
ballet or the like squatting and jumping and moving like that, but really allowing your body to move to music that emulates the mood that you're in. I think it does activate the body in this different fluid way rather than, going to just a fitness class, and doing those workouts. Leaning into your mood and finding a song that
Mhm.
connects with that, for me, has always been my tool.
Yeah.
It's been kind of a mode of connecting not just to my emotions, but to my body at the same time.
Yeah, and you mentioned dancing in a dark room because I've been one of those people who are like, "I'm a terrible dancer, this, that," but it feels so good, and I think that's so important to point out where you don't have to be a good dancer. You don't
Yeah,
have to do a squat perfectly. You
yeah.
don't have to, do everything perfectly. It's just moving. So can you talk about that? Anyone listening who's like, "I
Yes,
wanna try this, but I'm nervous, I'm scared, I won't look good."
yes, listen to me when I tell you, you never have to be on beat, you never have to find
Good.
coordination, you never have to find rhythm to gain the infinite benefits of dance that are never ending, and I will scream this from the rooftop until I'm, like, 99 because I truly have seen this, and I've seen people in my classes, and now with our online Dance to Heal program, we're getting people who are going through divorce or they've just lost somebody in their life, and we're really positioning dance as this thing of like, "Hey, what if we reframe how we approach dancing?" For all
Mhm,
this time, dance has been this thing that we think is only for the professionals
mhm,
or for people who are good at it and excel at it. And that's just not true. I think that we need to completely reframe everything and think of it as meditation,
mhm.
right? People rarely are people really good at meditation or expect themselves to be good at meditation, but they know that the ritual does something for them. So my biggest mission is trying to get people to see dance as a practice, a ritual
Mhm.
where don't expect don't do it for the result of getting better or losing weight or the physical stuff.
Yep.
Focus on the intangible things that really can transform your energy in your life.
Yeah, that's so true. I was just on a Zoom before you got here, and we were just talking prior, and we were talking about meditation, and she's, like, a very high level, runs a big firm. She's like, "I'm trying to meditate, but I just can't get it right." I'm like, "What do you mean?"
Right.
Like,
Does
there's
anybody get it right?
yeah.
Right?
Because then you don't have to get it right. You just do it, and you work on it. I always say it's like building your muscles. You'll build
Yes.
like, your brain can change, and you just keep doing the work.
I would never want anybody to think that there's this expectation, like, right off the bat, I say no one gives a shit what you look like in here because I
Yeah,
want everybody to know, like, if you're taking yourself too seriously, you're not in the right room.
yeah,
We're about to have the most unserious dance class
yeah,
filled with play, filled with just, like, whatever movement feels good for you, and to just take that deep breath out and just realize, "Okay, nobody here is trying to look cool. Nobody here is, like, trying to really, like, show off. Okay, good."
I've had this, like, newfound love for dance in the past year, and Bobby can tell you, and I've been, like, dancing in my living room or dancing alone, and I've realized that when I stopped caring, I actually there were moments I could find the beat.
Yes, it's so funny that you just said that because as you were just telling me that story, I was thinking, "Oh, that is the biggest thing that I've seen in my classes is when you do address this elephant in the room of, hey, the moral and the mission behind this class is to just dance to let go through your body. And let's focus on that. And think of it this way, you're growing your brain, you're connecting new neurons in your brain. Think of it as a brain exercise. Think of
Mhm.
all the other benefits and see how class is different when you take yourself out of, "Am I good?" and you get in the present moment. What you end up finding is that people realize they get the moves more,
Yeah.
which is not the point, but
Yeah.
that's what happens when your brain can take that back seat of like, "Whatever,
Yeah.
let's just get present." And then you see people coming out of their I don't know, just it's just a really beautiful thing that happens, just like what you were saying. You're like, I realize I get better when I don't care."
Yeah. Yeah. Think about that in several different aspects of life.
Exactly. That's that's been the biggest thing for me in, teaching dance fitness. Over the pandemic, I went through my own shift of I love that I've built this fitness brand, but to me, it's not so much feeling like a fitness brand anymore. It's to me, it's more about mental health, and it's
Mhm.
about utilizing dance fitness as the modality to tap into our mental health in a different way
Mhm.
that people wouldn't expect it to because, just the feedback that I've gotten from people who've been coming to class, it's just stuff that I would have never, years ago, I wouldn't have been like, "Oh, this is what dance can help you do." But
Mhm.
then as you've seen too, over time, you get these messages and you're like, "Wait, that happened? Dance helped you get out of a physically abusive relationship?" Well, first of all,
Mm.
you did that.
Mhm.
But they're saying, "No, the dancing did something. The dancing
Mhm.
did something, and I ended up making different decisions in other areas of my life." So the biggest thing for, you know, Dance to Heal is the lessons that you learn
Mhm.
from dance ripple into so many other areas of your life.
I would imagine too with dancing, I think of it almost as boxing. Like it teaches you to be more present. And so
Yes.
maybe that's what is transferred into your everyday life. Like when you learn how to meditate, when you're boxing, you have to stay focused, like you have to be present.
Mhm.
And when you dance, like, there's this presence that you learn.
That's exactly what it is. That's
Yeah.
exactly what it is. It immediately draws you into the present moment,
Yeah.
which again, when you take that deeper, what does that mean? First, it means that you're in your body
Mhm.
and you're able to remind yourself, okay, I'm here and I'm safe in my body. Okay, when you take that a second step deeper, okay, now I'm here. What else is going on? And sometimes for people, it's I'm burnt out.
Mhm.
I'm at my wit's end. I'm so burnt out. And I would have never been able to find that if I didn't take that moment to get present in my body.
Mhm. Ah, fitness. We can change the world.
Right. It's incredible.
Okay, so what is your favorite song right now to dance to?
Ooh. Oh my gosh. Okay. I have an answer for you.
Okay.
It's a cover of the thong song.
I was not I was
You weren't
expecting, like,
expecting that.
Beyonce's country album or
I
something.
know, I'm sorry to disappoint everybody. It's the thong song.
Okay, okay.
Reimagined. Yes, it's by Amber Marks, and it's a woman doing a rendition of thong song that is just beautiful. I don't know how to put it, but I made a dance to it, and it's been a hit in class. You gotta write yeah,
Um,
I'm
I'm
glad that you're
taking
right.
notes right here. Song
I
song
see her writing
by
thong song.
what is her name?
Amber Mark
Amber
Amber Marks or
Marks.
Mark?
I'll find it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna private dance myself to that later.
Yes. It's fun. It's, like, feminine, it's yeah.
Alright, so where can people dance with you?
So, I have, weekly classes that I brought back for the
Mhm.
first time since a while, every Sunday at 11 in Austin at a dance
Also
studio.
taking these notes
Yes,
Sunday at
yeah, you gotta
11.
come. It's at a studio called Corazon Latino Dance Studio, and it's been really fun to bring back the intimacy of a studio class.
Yeah.
For so many years, we were doing the bigger ones,
Mhm.
and there's just something nice and intimate for the space that we're in our brand of bringing it back to the basics of a dance studio. And then also online, our newest baby that we are so excited about is the Dance to Heal program,
Yes.
which is really combining. dance fitness with mental health. It's just probably the deepest work that I've done
Yeah.
and, really goes into shadow work, goes into, the importance of play, all those lessons that we've kind of been talking about with dance, taking my 10 years of teaching and seeing what's really helped people and resonated with people and putting that into kind of a program for people who would otherwise never wanna be in a dance class,
Mhm.
but they do wanna explore dance and their own mental health, um, in the privacy of their own home, you know?
Love that. I am feeling that we're gonna do a mental health dance something.
I'm so
I'm
there with you.
okay. Stay tuned on that
Yeah.
one.
TBD.
Alright, and then where can everyone find you as well?
Yeah, you can find me at Melody DanceFit, on Instagram, on YouTube. It's Melody DanceFit, and my website is melodydancefit.com.
Alright, and we'll put it in the show notes. Thank you,
Yes,
Melody.
thank you so much for having me.
Of course, it's been lovely.
The big silence. The big silence.